What's going on, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of The Real Junkies. I am your host, Farhan, here again with my man Vito, reviewing a movie that I kind of have to ask the question of, was this necessary in Mandalorian and Grogu? But I guess we're here to find that out, right? The reason I asked that question is because, like, we have what, 3 seasons of The Mandalorian, the show now, all pretty good, and I'm able to enjoy them in the comfort of my own home without leaving to go buy a movie ticket, without leaving to go pay $170 million for the concessions. And I feel like I generally would get the same experience doing that as I would going to see this movie. The Mandalorian show is a series of adventures. Granted, it follows a story, right? It follows a central plot line, but it's really just a series of adventures that Mandalorian and Grogu go on, and different ways that they get out of different situations, and a lot of fighting CGI monsters and, different random side quests. They're fighting former Empire members, right? And then for me, when I was coming into this movie, I was like, what are they going to do differently to justify taking this off of the Disney Plus format, not making it a TV show, and we're going to actually make a film, right? I feel like generally when we get movies that were based on TV shows, that film is adding something, you know what I'm saying? Or they're doing something that you couldn't necessarily get from just watching the show. And I don't dislike this movie, so I'm not here to bash it. But I am kind of wondering, why was this necessary? Because this literally just felt like season 4 of The Mandalorian, but instead of 8 to 13 episodes, it's 2 hours. And I feel like you generally got the same experience. You just had to leave your house and pay more money, but it's essentially the same experience.
So the same feelings you have about this, a lot of the internet has about this. I had about this. I think it's been like 2 or 3 years since we got that last season, first of all,
It's been a
which
while.
is that's part of the problem.
Yeah.
And the same thing you just said, a lot of people are saying this is something that could have been going for years. The Mandalorian and Grogu. First of all, the Mandalorian and Grogu takes place between the end of episode 6, and the
Hmm.
beginning of episode 7. Okay,
Hmm.
so it's happening between the fall of the Empire and
Rise of the
the
First Order. Yeah.
rise of the First Order and the New Republic. So I mean, that was like a good 20, 25 years.
You got a lot.
So we got a lot of time. Okay. One of the issues I have with Star Wars is time frame anyway. If I haven't said it before on here, I love Star Wars, but I'm not a fan of the Skywalker family. They're ruining the universe or the galaxy. So I love that they're focusing on other people. I love that
Yeah.
they're focused on the Mandalorian. Everything doesn't have to be Jedi. Okay. It
Yeah.
doesn't have to be Jedi
Absolutely.
focused. And if it is, let's focus on some Jedi that aren't Skywalker and Anakin, don't have any relationship to Skywalkers, because the universe after the Order 66, a lot of Jedi survived that.
Hmm.
But to get us back on track, it could have gone on for years. Like I said, it's about 20, 25 years between 6 and 7. Okay. Grogu was only 50. It's
Which is
crazy.
crazy.
He's a
Which is
he's a
crazy. Like,
50-year-old toddler. It's insane. But yeah, I actually didn't mind watching it on small screen. It's pretty fun, especially
yeah.
I think they re I think they released every week. I don't think they released all of Mandalorian at
I
once.
don't think they released them like all at the same time. Like
And
it was weekly drops.
I like that. This is coming from somebody that likes to binge watch things, okay?
Hmm.
But this kind of Western adventure feel that it has, I feel like it's made for that. Okay.
Yeah.
And we know the reason they did it. They wanted to make some more money. But they could keep milking this shit forever. I think
Yeah.
choosing Pedro Pascal to play the Mandalorian was not a good move. When you have a star that's that big, you're not gonna have a lot of time with him to continue doing a show like that. So I think
Yeah.
choosing Pedro Pascal to play that character was the wrong move, but we could have got so much more out of this.
Yeah.
And it's the Star Wars universe has so much lore in it, it could fill in a lot of blanks. So what you were saying, where you like when we get a movie from a TV show, it's usually giving us extra stuff.
Hmm.
It's not just a continuation of the story that was already going. Because I think somebody asked me like, "Hey, do I need you really don't need to watch the TV shows to get this movie,
You
because
don't.
but there are going to be some things that you don't know. You don't know
Yeah.
why Grogu and Din Jar, who was the Mandalorian,
Hmm.
you don't know how they came to be together. You
Yeah.
don't know why this ship that's in the movie is so important to him. You don't know
Yeah.
why this farm that he's living on is so important to him.
Yeah.
Um,
You're missing a lot of context if
yeah,
you haven't seen the show, but
you
you
are
can see
missing.
this without having watched any
Yeah,
episodes of the show and get everything.
you missing some context, but like you can get the general feel of the movie and still be okay with it. So what you were saying, like for me, again, I watch a lot of anime and I watch a lot of anime movies. Some of these anime movies, they literally will they'll do a partially new story, but then another part of the movie is either the last 2 or 3 episodes, 2, 3, 4 episodes of the last season, or the first 2, 3, 4 episodes of the next season.
Mhm.
So I will say I'll give that to them that they didn't really give us anything old in here. They kind of, I mean, but also there are some characters that are introduced in here, and you're
Yeah.
like, okay, where did this motherfucker come from? Or there's a pilot in this movie who was in the TV shows,
Mhm.
and he just kind of pops up. And he's like, okay, well, you would think that he has more contact with this individual,
Yeah, no,
and
he's
he
not given much to
absolutely
do.
does not.
Yeah.
It's it so it's a few things that are but like you said, again, I think this is one of the better Star Wars movies that we have currently got.
That's not saying much. That's literally like saying you're the
It
tallest 3rd
that
grader, I'm not gonna lie.
it's very unfortunate that, that's
Yeah.
not saying much, but it is a good movie. I enjoyed myself watching it, and we can get into some more of the finer details of this movie.
Yeah, yeah. It's essentially the plot is, and this is when I say that the movie kind of feels very, very similar to just like an
Regular
extra season of
episode.
the show. You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
season.
I would say like the plot wise is essentially, well, first of all, the movie opens incredibly. Like that first action sequence was, bro, that first action sequence had me so hyped. I'm like, oh, if this movie's about to be this. This is about to be one of them ones, right?
It was, like, it was shot really dark, and it was
Yes,
meant to be dark because he's in the shadows, which is funny
yes.
because he's in his fucking titanium fucking, outfit uniform.
Yes, and, like, comes through and it's like it's a action sequence straight out of John Wick, like, that's the best way I could describe
Yeah,
it
I
is,
give you
like, the
that,
opening scene of
or I
this,
agree.
right? So the plot of this is essentially Mandalorian and Grogu are very locked in now at this point. Mandalorian is working with the New Republic, doing various missions for them, trying to take out what's left of the Empire. There's scattered remnants of the Empire across the galaxy, and Mandalorian is going through and kind of picking off different factions of it, either bringing them back alive to the New Republic or just straight up killing them.
Okay, so
And there's a particular general that the New Republic's looking for. And they're going through a lot of other members of the Empire trying to get to this particular person. And they have a deal with some members of the Hutt family. And they play a very key role in this. Remember, the Jabba Hutt family plays a very key role in this film in a lot of different ways. So there's two members of the Hutt family they call the twins. They have a deal with them where they'll give the New Republic information on this warlord, this Empire warlord they're looking for. In exchange, the New Republic must go on a mission to get back their nephew, Rada the Hutt, who's Jabba the Hutt's son. And I don't want to get too much into that because there's a lot of spoilers involved in that aspect of the story once you understand the why they're going after him and all that stuff. But I will say this though, there's like a double-edged sword for me when it comes to this part of the story. On one, this film opens up very early, setting up as if this movie is going to dive deep into what the Empire is up to right now and what their
yeah,
plans are. And kind of, I'm expecting us to get a little bit into why the First Order rose in the first place and what the Empire's been doing behind closed doors. And this movie sets up as if it's going to be that because
it does.
we're hunting down former people of the Empire, right? Like I'm thinking this has got to be that. And then once we get past the point of rescuing Rada the Hutt, Jabba's son, who is the best side character in this film, by the way, by far.
So while you're here, I just want to take a brief intervention or intervention. I'm tripping. And there is Ryan of the Hut first appeared in the Clone Wars TV show. Okay,
Yeah.
so I want to show y'all a picture of Rada the Hut as a child that we seen.
Yeah.
Can you see that?
Yes.
All right, that is Rada the Hut as he appeared in the Clone Wars. I believe that was either the first or second season of Rada the Hut. And this is how we see him in the film. So again, I
Yeah.
I didn't do the math to see how much time from the Clone Wars to this is, but remember, this is between 6 and 7.
So we're well
S
past the Clone Wars at this
so
point. Like,
again, the Clone Wars is Anakin Skywalker. I
yeah.
think Luke was 18, by the time of episode 3, or I'm sorry,
Mhm.
episode 4. So we're at least 20
20
years, all
years.
right?
Yes.
This is Rada the Hutt now in this film.
She's trying to say you look
Because
a little different?
listen, I'm like, all right, they talking about Rada the Hutt. I'm like, all right,
Yeah.
Rada the Hutt, who Rada the Hutt? Okay, I got Rada the Hutt, got it, baby.
Yeah.
This is Rada the Hutt in the film. Dog. First of all, if you know who Jabba the Hutt is,
You know
all
Jabba
right,
never looks like that.
you know Jabba the Hutt, and you looking at Jabba the Hutt. I'm gonna give y'all the picture of Jabba the Hutt. I'm sorry to go off on this other tangent, bro, but that was one of the things that I seen. I'm like, yo, there's no way we're gonna miss this.
You know,
Um,
Rada, I mean, granted, Rada is, as you can see, doing a lot of fighting in this. They
Jabba
kind of
the
have
Hutt.
him in the, yeah, Jabba was just he was like sloppy big. Rada is swole. Like
Like as you,
Rada
he
is
had,
very built.
he was still big because he's a fucking slug, but
Yeah,
the nigga got abs, which is
yeah,
insane
yeah.
because when you look at the twins, they look exactly like Jabba.
They look exactly like Jabba, but in this context, it makes sense because Rada's been in a fighting pit for years at this point. And you know what I'm saying? When you first meet Rada in this film, he's been in a fighting pit for years, and he's clearly the champ because he's been killing everybody. So you know what I'm saying? Little different context in terms of how they were brought up. And to give just a little bit about Rada as a character, you when you first meet him, you're thinking, all right, he's a Hut, gotta be an asshole, gotta be, all the things that you just expect out of any member of the Hut family. And I actually think what they did with him was kind of cool of making him his own man, of like, yeah, I understand who my dad is. I understand who my aunt and uncle are. I am trying to create my own legacy. And just because my last name is Hut doesn't mean that I align with them or what their missions are, what their goals are. And he kind of, it's not even like an internal conflict thing with him. Like he's very sure about
Mhm.
who he is and who he wants to be and how he is really trying to disassociate from his family. I thought that was a really cool angle to take with that character because with Jabba the Hutt's son, there's so many different avenues you can take as far as what his temperament would be. So to try to make him his own man and make him a little bit more of a complex character than just, oh, I'm Jabba the Hutt's son, so I'm gonna be evil. I thought that was pretty cool that they took that route. After that, though, I think narratively this movie gets a lot weaker
It just
because
kind of started going places.
yeah, it felt like after the Rod of the Hut scene, the scenes where you first meet Rod of the Hut and Mandalorian and Grogu get acclimated with him. Once the film kind of takes off from there, it starts to lose its focus a little bit, in my opinion, of like what we came here for in the first place. We came here because we were trying to get information on this Empire warlord so that we can figure out what the Empire's plans are and what they've been doing. Somehow this movie goes from that to now it is a story about the Huts and they're the main bad guys and they're the central
Yeah.
conflict. And I feel like those are two conflicting stories at that point, right? Like one doesn't really have much to do with the other than the fact that the New Republic needed the Huts to get information on this warlord. Oh, and by the way, that never actually happened. You know what I'm saying? Like that the Huts never actually came in and was like, okay, yep. So here's what we know about him. Here's what he's been up to. Here's where he be at. That conversation never took place.
Well, and to be honest, they did cover that. So it wasn't just
They
missed. They
did.
did
It
cover it
wasn't missed, but
as
like
in
it's just different. You know what I'm
yeah.
saying? They didn't
So
really.
when they and it's not much of a spoiler, but and I'm not gonna go into detail, but when Din or the Mandalorian, when he deals with Rada, all right,
Mhm.
Rada basically gives away who this person is they're looking.
Yes,
So they know so he basically no longer needs to finish this deal with the Huts, okay? I mean, again, and the Huts never gave him anything. So,
they didn't give him nothing. Yeah,
but like Farhan said, then the Huts become this main bad guy of this film, and they're out to get the Mandalorian because he broke an agreement that they had, which you'll find out that again, they're Huts.
yeah.
They're
So
not gonna follow this agreement. And the thing about the Huts is it's very weird because they're a criminal clan. but there are species
Mhm.
as well that are hut. They're called
Yeah.
huts. And
Mhm.
the thing that throws me off about Rada again, I'm sorry to go back to this, that you see other huts like kind of sliming around in their lair, and they all look the same.
They all look the Arata is the only one that is built or swollen in any way, shape. Like the rest of
Yeah,
them have the exact same
the
build.
exact same deal. Um, One of the things that exactly how you said it, man. They set this up to we're hunting down the remnants of the empire. We're
Mhm.
trying to get these warlords that are start with a D. I cannot. They're what do mobsters do when they're getting money from people for protection? Extorting.
Extorting,
All right,
yes.
so they're trying to get these warlords, they're extorting people. And again, like Farhan said, that opening fucking scene, I
Was
mean, the
fire.
entire thing, there's a
Yes.
scene with three walkers.
Yes.
It's crazy. So
Yeah.
you get that, and then you get where the Mandalorian goes after this warlord, and it's so just anticlimactic. I'll say,
Yes.
like it's
Yes.
action, but you're like, okay, well, that was weak as fuck for this to
Yeah.
be the main objective of the movie, or
Mhm.
for us at this point, the main objective of the movie. This is just very bad because you also got a fight scene in the arena with Rada, uh, the Mandalorian, and a bunch of other things. Okay.
Yeah, a bunch of
Uh,
random creatures, which is really what this movie is. It's a series of side quests with Mando and Grogu fighting CGI creatures.
what
Which, what I'm saying, that kind of gets old after a while. Literally, I'm sitting in this movie and I'm like, I think after, like I said, after that.
old for the movie, not the TV show. We were fine with this being on TV.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. Like for the TV show, that's why I'm saying this film doesn't really add much as far as like context or like adding anything to the
Yeah,
story of the overall
we just kept
Mandalorian,
getting new
right?
creatures.
We just kept getting the same shit, literally the same shit that you can click on Disney Plus right now and watch. There's 3 seasons. All the shit that happens in this movie, there's 3 seasons of it on Disney Plus that you can watch without leaving your house. So that's like the part for me where I wonder why was this movie necessary? Not because I think it's bad, but it's just that we have this movie we have already in TV show format and I can spend a lot less money to already consume this, right? I don't need to leave my house and do all the shit that goes into going to the movies to watch Mandalorian fight a series of CGI creatures for a few hours. Like that's essentially what this movie is, and it doesn't really do much to add in terms of context that of the timeline we're in for
Right.
Star Wars right now. Like we're trying to figure out literally this film opens with the Empire being the main focus and what they've been up to. And we don't get that in this film at all. And I feel like that being the central focus given this movie a lot more relevance to Star Wars and just where we are in the Star Wars lore at this point.
And so, and to your point, exactly what you said. We don't fucking know. So
Mhm.
again, when we got episode 3, 4, and 5, the Empire's already going on. That's the beginning, start of the story with Luke. Okay, we got that. They finished that. All right. 20 years later, we get the Phantom Menace,
Mhm.
episode 1. I think a year or 2 years later, we get episode 2.
One of the
Uh,
worst things ever made, by the way.
then we get episode 3. All right. Then we get the Clone Wars the movie. All
Mhm.
right. You were like, it's kind of bad, but gives us a little more things to go on during the Clone Wars because again, people were upset about Anakin falling to the dark side
Mhm.
because think there were reasons, but like you're like, really, this is why he's doing it.
This is why, yeah, exactly.
Then you get the Clone Wars TV show, which is arguably the best Star Wars property that we've had.
Yeah.
And like hands down, there's n- were as far as TV show movies that Star Wars the Clone Wars is arguably the best Star Wars property that we have. All right,
Yeah, I would argue
and
it's the best if you just add quality of the
yeah,
series plus the lore and
the lore
context
that
that it adds. Yeah,
so and that's part of the reason people love it. It added so much lore and backstory to it. It introduced characters like fucking Ahsoka,
Ahsoka, yeah.
who was not somebody we had. So then, that's over. and then they make Rebels, Star Wars
Mhm,
Rebels, which
mhm,
people generally hate it because of the art style of it. But when people started watching it, they're like, okay, shit, again, this did something else.
mhm,
It gave lore. This gave lore to the rise of the rebellion.
mhm,
Okay. So this is between the end of episode 3 and the beginning end of episode end of episode 3, beginning of episode 4.
mhm.
Then there's another one that's like the it's the rebellion, which is like the fight in the first order. Um but the point I was trying to make, because I know I just got it a little long-winded right there. The point I was trying to make is these things added to the lore of the story or the
Yes,
lore of the universe.
yes,
Even the Mandalorian TV show, it added to the lore of the universe,
it
which is
did.
why people love it. Ahsoka, it added to the lore of the universe. And then you get this movie, and it doesn't really like you said, it doesn't add anything. It's another story. Cool. Yeah, that's all right. But it doesn't add anything. All right. It
Exactly.
doesn't push it doesn't give you any added lore either. Every it the one thing they did which people love, or again, it's not a bad movie by far, but we didn't need it. It was a money grab. We 100% know that. And one of the things they did was they added Zed, who was he was a character in the original. What's the one I just said? Rebels.
Rebels, yes.
He he was the original crew of Rebels. And again, we know Rebels goes into Andor and Rogue One. So this just didn't combine it anywhere. And like you said, you watch it, it's like it's good, it's entertaining, but we could have used another that could have been a season in itself. It could have been an entire season in itself. John Favreau direct he directed, right?
Yeah, Jon Favreau
John
directed
Favreau
this.
directed, but he wrote
Yes,
as well with, Dave Filoni,
yes, and
um
that both of them have been, like, essentially the showrunners for the show, so it
yeah,
makes sense that they will be heavily involved
but
here.
Dave Filoni right now is probably, like, one of the most knowledgeable people about Star Wars universe and lore as far, like, coming under George Lucas of what he built.
Yeah. He's
So,
kinda
he's
taken on that role for, like, the
yeah,
present day of Star Wars
of
after the
Star Wars.
Kathleen Kennedy incident with the sequel trilogy. Yeah, they Dave Filoni's been I ain't gonna say he's been their Kevin Feige per se, but he's the closest thing to that they have right now.
I'd say it because he's had his hands in everything
Yeah, he
Star
has.
Wars, like, big or small, he's had his hand in everything Star Wars
Yeah.
since, I think the last episode of the Clone Wars.
I will say this, one
Like,
thing I did appreciate is that Grogu didn't take a back seat in this film, which I was kinda
yeah,
worried he would a little bit.
shit, at one
Um
part, Den took a back seat.
Yeah, honestly, and I do appreciate that, like, because it's very easy. Like when you talk about the heavy action sequences, right? That's gonna be all Mando,
Mhm.
and I could see a world where it's like Grogu could possibly not take a back seat per se because he's still the title character, and obviously a very obvious ploy to sell toys, right? So like you knew Grogu was gonna have a key role, but when I say take a backseat or not be as involved, like not really do much to push the mission forward. And he did several times in this, right? They made sure they carved out a very key role for him, which I liked. Um, and I do think the relationship between him and Mando is really the heart of this film and what drives it, right? That's the core, that's the substance of this film that kind of holds it together, and that to me is the strength of this film. That's where this movie's at its best is when it's focusing on that relationship between Mandalorian and Grogu, because ultimately that's really what you're here for. Because they didn't like I said before, it's not like they're giving you a whole lot of new lore or context around Star Wars to build upon the universe. So you're really just here for a good time now at this point, and their relationship is what drives it. Plus the added addition of Rada the Hutt, like you have a really good core of like a protagonist group in this movie. So from there, once we have that set up, I'm thinking like, all right, maybe this adventure will be strong enough. This after the Ride of the Hut scene that when he's introduced, I'm like, maybe this adventure will be strong enough that I won't care that they just promised me a story at the beginning that they had no intention of delivering on or giving you any type of resolution to. And it does for like a couple scenes, but
Yeah,
eventually my main critique of this movie is it drags a lot
it
after
does.
it there's a certain point where it like really drags and the pace kind of comes to a halt.
especially
And
when Grogu takes the center stage.
yes, and I kinda started checking my watch a little bit, and I'm like, you know what I'm saying? Like, this movie's been how long now? So there is a issue there for me with this, and I think it was an easy fix had they just understood what story they wanted to tell and
Yeah.
maybe been a little bit more fluid in how they went about it. I think this just is it feels like 2 movies in 1, and the first half is to me the far better movie than what you eventually get in the latter half of this film. But it's still good, right? Like I don't want to say that as if like I was bored or completely checked out, but it just drags and there's parts that kept me engaged that were really within like the first 35 to 40 minutes. And then after that, there's like so many parts after that where I was just like, you're kind of losing me a little bit here. This isn't as engaging. You know, this doesn't really feel like we're leading to anything. It just feels like I said, a sequence of side missions that really could have just been season 4 of the Mandalorian. To be honest, it's felt like the first half of season 4 versus the second half of season 4, and I feel like this probably would have been more effective had it just been done in that format as opposed to just trying to cram it into a 2-hour movie, in my opinion. I'll say one thing that to me would have made this film a lot better is if we could have, because one thing I appreciate about the show that you mentioned that it does add to the lore.
Yeah.
You got things like the dark saber and things like that that really add to the lore overall. This film, I think, really lacked like a central vision on what it was trying to convey, honestly. And when I say that, I mean like it felt like in the writing room, they were like, here, we have Mandalorian and Grogu, right? Let's figure out how to make as many references that tie them into the Star Wars universe as
Mhm.
we can, right? You want to bring in characters from the show. You want to add on with new characters, not necessarily new characters, but maybe characters we're not as familiar with, like Jabba's son. But I feel like what this movie was missing is like you need a reason as to why this is being made into a film, right? And I'll even give an example, right? Like for those of you who watched Breaking Bad, you've seen
I didn't know they
the
had 2 movies.
there is a Breaking Bad movie that came out that focused on Jesse Pinkman, and it takes
El
place
Dorado.
in the show. Yeah. So to me, like that film was a very great way to kind of show, like, all right, post this show, what's Jesse go? Because Jesse, if you've watched Breaking Bad, you know, is like one of the most traumatized characters in the show. So that film in particular, to me, did a great job of like showing you just the aftermath of everything Jesse's been through and what type of person that's turned him into, right? It felt like that film added to the experience that was watching the Breaking Bad show. This movie, while I had a good time with it, you know, like if you just want to go have a good time, you don't have to really watch the show at all to really understand what's going on
Yeah.
in here. If you just want to go and have a good time, then you're going to get everything you need out of this film. But for me, as somebody who watched the show, I think I wanted this to give me a little bit more as far as additional context or, you know, additional lore, just something more to justify making this into a movie as opposed to just making it Mandalorian season 4, which is kind of what this felt like, right? I'll go ahead and give because I ain't gonna lie, I was really struggling on what I wanted my rating for this to be because I have a lot of conflicting emotions about this
Yeah.
movie. I don't dislike it, but like I also think it has a lot of flaws as well. Like I would watch it again, but I would have to watch it again like with a new mindset. I think I went into this expecting something, and that's not really what we got. Um, right now, I'm gonna give this a really high background noise. And the reason I say that is because I felt like there was a better movie in here than the one we got. And that's
Yeah.
really that and as you know, like, that's one of my biggest pet peeves watching films. Like, if I'm watching a movie and I'm seeing all the ways the film could have been better as I was watching it, even if I don't hate the film, that's something that's always gonna bother me. And there was, like, so many opportunities in this film where I was watching it like, "Why did you make that story decision? Why do we choose to focus on this instead of this? Why is this now the central focus when the first half of the movie, this was just supposed to be a plot point to push forward, and now we've just completely detoured, and now this is the main focus," right? I just feel like there were so many instances in this film where I found myself thinking like that. So I was like, I want to give this a polite applause, but I just couldn't work my way up to it when I think about all those flaws. But I also still like it, right? So it's like I don't want to shit on it too much. So I'm gonna say high background noise for me, but This movie, with a few story changes, could have easily been a polite applause, or probably could have even been a standing ovation if they had like really, really hit the mark. But there are just too many misses in here for me to give it too much credit. So I'm gonna say high, like I said, high background noise for me.
So I agree with what you're saying, not to the extent. Again, I'm a Star Wars fan. I'm gonna watch everything they have. You see my most Isley shirt on. This is not a shirt that I bought for this. This is a shirt I've owned for I've owned this shirt for quite a while and I've
Yeah.
worn it out in public. All right. So it's not this ain't just for this. All right. I agree. The story kind of takes a turn. All right.
Hmm.
Again, we're looking at the empire trying to figure out what's going on. And I think one Embro, he was in Clone Wars. He was in Clone Wars. But he wasn't as big as obviously a Cad Bane. Cad Bane was cool as shit.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
This guy is really cool as fuck. Okay. So I would have loved to see more of him actually. Maybe in the next season of Dark Side or Legends, whatever the short story that
He's a cool
they've been
character.
putting out,
Yeah.
they probably should focus on him a little bit more. But I felt like they wanted to end the Mandalorian, and there's a scene in here where you're like, oh shit, yeah,
Hmm.
um, it's probably not going to end well. You
Yeah.
know, Grogu's probably going to be on his own in this motherfucker.
Hmm.
Right? So it's kind of like you said, it would have made sense in the TV show, all right?
Hmm.
But here it just did not. I think that should have been a quicker story.
Hmm.
Like you said, they really don't flesh out the story of this Empire general. You know, he
Hmm.
captures him, and then it's like, okay, well, he's supposed to help. They mind you, no one knows what he looks like.
Hmm.
All right. So that's one of the key things that they're telling in the story. They're like, no one knows what he looks like. And he has, if we get him, we need him alive because he has so much information that we could get, that we can extract. I'm giving it a high polite applause again.
Okay.
Said same thing we watch. It's just certain things that we like and
Yeah.
certain things that we can kind of disregard. You know, Star Wars
Yeah.
has not been in a great place recently, but again, I enjoyed myself. It was a good movie, um, but there are some things that it's missing. So
Yeah.
I'm not even going to give it a high polite applause. I'll give it a mid polite
Oh,
applause.
yeah. Yeah, no, I yeah, have a lot of mixed emotions about this film. But I did walk away still really enjoying it. I did walk away still really feeling like I had a good time at the theater just overall. But the Star Wars fan in me had definitely had a lot of issues with this. And I definitely the a fan of the just Star Wars in general and someone who's a fan of the show, I feel like this movie missed the mark in a lot of ways, and I feel like this really could have just been an additional season of the show that didn't really give much else or additional context. Where I'm like, oh yeah, this works as a film. Like I really feel like this didn't have to be what it was, but I appreciate it for what we got.
I wanted to
So
see the other Mandalorians.
yeah, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's just so much that was missing from this that I feel like could have added to the experience of this film, but what we got is what we got. So, let us know y'all thoughts. If you have seen Mandalorian and Grogu, let us know y'all thoughts. Let me know what you think. Let us know if you think we tripping and this shit was just straight fire, or let us know if you agree and you think, yeah, this film missed the mark in some ways, even though it's still a good time. Always continue to like, comment, subscribe. We appreciate all the support. And until next time, this is The Real Junkies. Peace.